Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Accidentally Profound, the number one podcast in Indianapolis, Indiana. I have no metrics to prove that point, but you're just going to have to believe me on that. Recording here once again in the great and sunny and beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. Beautiful day outside, and if I'm being completely honest, no real intention of going out and enjoying it. Today is going to be a bona fide lazy day for the kid. But we're still in here. We're still putting in the work. We're still getting the pod out for you today because I just love hanging out with you guys so much. Woke up a little late this morning. Not going to hold you. That is because last night, the kid and Naomi, my fiance, hit the town a little bit. You know, I'm not much of a going out guy. I like to chill at the crib. You know, I can be extroverted. I can conversate. I'm good at conversation. That's what we'll say. But let me tell you, son, I love hanging out in the crib. I love staying in. I love just being cozied up on the couch, posted, chilling, whatever. But every now and again, you know, the kid's got to pop out. The kid's got to hit the scene, you know, because I am young. I still have my youth about me. No kids. So I guess I got to take those chances while I got them. You know what I'm saying? So we stepped out, went to this little, it was a grand opening for a wedding venue. Yes, I don't know why that was so difficult for me to remember. It was pretty dope. I had to throw on a suit. I had to throw on a tie, a little button-down shirt action. You know, had to dress to the nines, as the kids say. Threw on my Sunday's best. I learned how to tie a tie for this event. Pretty rad. You know what I mean? That's like I feel like a manly step to take is you tie your own tie. You know, no more clip-ons. We're tying our own shit. So leveled up this weekend in the man aspect of things. But it was a pretty cool event. Something very interesting did in fact happen. I was standing at a table, just sipping on a little brewski, hanging out. We had a bunch of empty glassware at our table. And there was a bunch of bussers going around kind of cleaning up tables, making sure everything was, you know, nice and tidy. Buster walks up to the table and she's grabbing some drinks. I notice her. So I grab a few glasses. I kind of set them over to her and hand them to her. And she looks at me and she goes, "Do you guys make Indianapolis content?" And I pointed at Naomi and I was like, "No, yeah, she does." And then it clicked. I said, she said, "You guys." So I looked at her. I go, "Do you recognize me?" And she goes, "Yeah, I recognize you." Bro, I got so gassed. I turned around and I went, "Let's go, bro." Completely disrespected this busser who was just trying to do her job. I didn't even say like, "Yo, appreciate you watching." I mean, it's Naomi's content, but I'm in it. So I was like, "I appreciate you watching." But nah. So I just kind of completely disregarded this busser and went to Naomi. It's like, "Naomi, I just got recognized." So that was pretty sick. Shout out that busser. Didn't get her name. Probably has no idea that I do this show, but she recognized me from the content where I'm a side character. So side character Drew got a little love this weekend. You know, that's pretty cool. A little weird to think that people might recognize me when I'm on the street, you know. Obviously, you know, when this pod blows up one day, people are gonna be like, stop me on the street, like, "Oh my God, are you Drew from Maximum From?" Like, yeah, bro, keep it chill. But like, you know, we're not there yet, so I don't have to mentally prepare for situations like that. But yeah, bro, the kid's a local celebrity. What can I say? So like I've been saying in the past, bro, get your OG status, get your get whatever you got to get in because when we're on top, might have to forget a few of y'all. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't forget y'all. Y'all my homies. But we do got a little bit of shit to get into today on the pod. I got quite a lot here on the podcast ideas note on my phone. I don't know where we're gonna go or how we're gonna navigate this, but we're just gonna kind of chit chat and just see where we end up. The first thing I kind of wanted to talk about, I have this, I don't know if it's a bad thing, or I have this tendency. There it is. I have this tendency about myself where I oftentimes feel like it's too late for me. And I feel like that is, I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I feel like it's kind of social media's fault. I feel like I fall into this mind trap of thinking that if I, not even just me, but just in general, if you don't do something kind of creative or against the status quo with your life by the time you're like 22, it's just not going to happen for you. And I feel like that's a pretty common thought process throughout people who are, in their mid 20s, late 20s, 30s, whatever. You kind of feel like it's over for you, that there's no way to kind of reinvent yourself, that it's like, oh, well, it didn't happen when I was 18, so it's not going to happen. And that kind of leads me into this envious state where I become kind of resentful of those who have had opportunities given to them at such a young age and have been able to put in the time, put in the effort, and kind of had that more unique lifestyle in their 20s. They achieve that I guess cooler way of living at a younger age. And what kind of like made me start to think about this, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking to Action Bronson, and he just like briefly mentioned how he didn't really get started rapping until he was 27. And it kind of just reopened that thought process for me while I was driving in my car, because I do think about that a lot, and I do sometimes think that's like, man, well, I didn't get the chance to be, whatever. I didn't have the opportunities put in front of me, because that's really what I've come to realize as I've gotten older is you see some people who, do cool shit at such a young age, like whether it's, they get into acting, they become a singer, just whatever, like kind of cool artsy thing these people do. And you feel like it's like there's something wrong with you. You're like, well, they're just cut from a different cloth than I am. They're built differently than I am. So, they're capable of that, where I'm just a normal guy. I didn't get dealt the hand of having God-given talent. So, well, okay, I guess there's nothing for me here. But what you come to realize is a lot of people, it's really just their environment that kind of cultivates and motivates, I guess, them to pursue this more artistic, more cool path, so to speak. And when you kind of look at, for me at least, I kind of take that step back and look at my own life, kind of take stock of my upbringing and where I have grown up and the people I've been surrounded with. You kind of realize it's not necessarily a me problem. It's not necessarily that I'm just not cut out to live a cool, not so, I guess, normal life. It's just I wasn't necessarily raised in an environment where that is encouraged. I was raised, no fault to it, but I was just raised in a more middle class, working class environment. I grew up, in rural America. There's not really a whole creative culture out there. I live in Indiana, which, no disrespect to Indiana, love my state. I put on for my state, but Indiana doesn't necessarily have the biggest creative culture. And if you are raised in an environment where something like that is not at the forefront, you're obviously a lot less likely to find yourself in positions to where you can allow that creative side of yourself to flow through. Because I feel like that's what a lot of people, I feel, are missing is, and it's not saying that like everybody needs to be a singer or an actor or a YouTuber or whatever it may be, but I do think that we are creative creatures I feel like that's a pretty obvious thing to say. I mean, just like look around, like go walk in any major city. We did that. Go look at your fucking phone. We did that. We've developed these like monetary systems. We've developed these governmental systems. Like that is human creation. So we are creative creatures. And I feel like sometimes we're not told that it's good to allow that creativity to flow through, that it speaks to your soul in a way when you allow this creativity to flow through. We're kind of just sold this idea that it's the normal way of living is you go to high school and you either go to college, trade school, work, whatever it may be, and then you kind of just get a good job, mind your P's and Q's, stay in your career, and then when you're 60, 65, you retire, collect your pension, collect your Social Security, whatever it may be, and then you live your quote unquote golden years. But man, like I'm 25 right now, and you're telling me that I have to just live this normal 9 to 5 kind of same shit every week existence for the next 40 years, and then when I'm in my 60s and my body's all like low key broken down, that's when I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor. That's when I get to enjoy the joys of this life. I feel like that's kind of a bad deal. Like I don't want to subscribe to that. So, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that. So we want to live a more fulfilled life, do things that inspire us more. But with that comes taking great leaps, and we're not necessarily sold on the idea of being able to do that in the later years of our life. And I fall into that trap as well. And it's not because we are weak minded or that we're so risk adverse. It just becomes a little bit harder when you get older. And I feel like we become so comfortable in our day-to-day situations that we really don't want to go through the hassle of having to take risks and take those leaps to create this more fulfilled life that we seek. When you do it when you're younger, there's less responsibilities that you have to attend to. You're kind of either you're living at home, you're in college, whatever it may be. You're still kind of under your parents' umbrella where they're kind of funding your lifestyle, so you don't have to worry about the money aspect of things. Whereas when you get older, you got bills, you got rent, you got car payments, car insurance, you got a bunch of fucking money bullshit. You got kids, right? You got responsibilities now. So you got to kind of play it safe. And then you kind of just fall into this trap of being like, well, it's over for me. I have the responsibilities now. I have the kids. That's all I got in this life is just this. And you kind of just allow the years to pass you by. And there's always something, maybe some poll that you want to do, but you never really act on it. Because, hey, man, you got bills to pay. You can't be living in fantasy land. You get sold that you got to stay in reality, and you can't live in fantasy land. All I'm trying to say here is maybe take a little bit of a chance and maybe try to do things that make you feel more creative, make you feel more inspired. And you don't have to just give up when you reach a certain age. There's so much life to be lived here. And if we just give up and stop trying to do things with our life that inspire us, we got like so much time here where we're just going to be miserable, man. And I feel like if we spend our years here and we get rid of this idea that there is some sort of time frame in which things need to happen, we can allow ourselves to grow, allow ourselves to change, and allow ourselves to find ourselves in positions where we can do more fulfilling things, and we can kind of push against the status quo and be more creative and allow this creative side of us to flow through us more instead of just kind of punching the clock for 40 to 60 hours a week, getting through our weekend doing whatever and then just going back to the same bullshit, man. We can become like these machines when we're these creative beings, these creative creatures. So just understand that it's never too late. Because you gotta think, man. So imagine this. Imagine You're 35, right? You're 35 years old and you spend 10 years pursuing something that really inspires you. Something that isn't just a means to an end, but something that really speaks to your soul and really just it gets you excited to get up and get after it. You spend 10 years doing it, you're 45 years old, and now you're living an existence where you get to every single day do something that you love, do something that you just fucking lights this fire underneath you. You still got like 20, 30 years where you get to live that joyful, fulfilled experience. Whereas if you just gave up when you're 35, you're saying it's too late for you, you got to live the next 40 years being miserable. And then that feeling of misery, it follows you. You carry it with you and you bring it through your life because you told yourself you couldn't do it at 35 because, you ran out of time. So now you definitely can't do it when you're 45, man. Like 10 years ago, I couldn't do it because I didn't have enough time, man. It was too late for me. I'm 45 now, man. It is over for me. It's never over for you. This is a long journey. This is a long life. There's always the opportunity to try something new. There's always the opportunity to improve. There's always the opportunity to reinvent yourself and pursue something that really, really makes you excited. The best time to start a business was 10 years ago. The second best times today. So that's all I'm saying. If you want to do that thing, if you want to do a little something something, just get after it. Just go for it, man. It don't got to be so serious all the time. It don't got to be so stressful all the time. You can try new things. You can reinvent yourself. You can just be a more creative and more fun person. Next thing I want to get in here too is I mentioned I think it was 2 episodes ago that I started reading Walden, and I mentioned how big books with big words are a little intimidating. And so I did a little more research on Walden. Still reading it, haven't given up yet. Did a little more research on Walden, and I have come to find that I am not the problem. It is in fact the author who is the problem. It seems that I am not the only one who reads this book and is, I'll say it, a little flabbergasted by the things he says. Again, I thought it was me. I thought I had that eminence high school reading comprehension. Wasn't really built for the big books. But no, it is. I've read a few Reddit threads, read a few posts, and it seems that bro just be yapping sometimes, and you kind of gotta weed through the rambling to find the juice. And there is some juice that I will say, and it's a very insightful book. I've very much enjoyed it, but it is kind of tough because I like to read before bed. So, I retire to my chambers for the evening and crack open a good old book to read. And I like to sometimes just burn through some pages, read some fun little fiction, read some stories, yada yada. But when you're reading these bigger books, bro, you gotta think. Like they're not page turners, they invoke thought in you as you read. So I'll be reading this book, bro. I'm laying there. It's 10:30 at night. Posted, reading. I read like 3 paragraphs, and then I'm having to like stare off into the ceiling because I'm like thinking about what I just read and like how it pertains to my life and how these things he's saying, how how I feel about them. And it gets to the point where I read for like 20 minutes and I read 2.5 pages max. So it's a very, very interesting experience. But the reason I bring that up is he mentioned something in the book that I kind of wanted to touch on. He talks about how we've been domesticated in a sense. And I feel like this kind of ties into what I was just speaking on about how we feel like at a certain point it's kind of over for us. And I feel like in a way that is sort of domestication. So it's like, I don't think I want to talk about this. So we just spent the first, 15 minutes getting a little introspective. So I think I kind of want to switch up the vibe a little bit. Let's get a little more silly, have a little more fun here. I saw this story that came across my desk this week, and it was about a soldier. hold on, I have to pull up my phone here. It was about a soldier who used Polymarket to make $400,000 off of the Maduro raid. And I feel like that's, we'll get into that in a second, but I want to touch on this whole Polymarket situation. I feel like that is like the Polymarket and like Kalshi are just, I don't know necessarily what it is I want to define these as, but they're just not good. I wish I had a more insightful term to call them, but they're just not good for, feel like, the America as a whole, because what you've created is this degenerate gambling site where people are betting on the most random bullshit for, like, it's just so stupid, bro. Like, they're betting real life money, their hard-earned money, on whether or not Trump is going to say Biden in a speech. And then not even that, they, it's like the what was it, the founder of Polymarket said that he what's the word encourages insider trading. Like, wait, like, what is going on here? See, we got situations where it's like, if I know certain information, if I know sensitive information, and then there's a prop for it on Polymarket or Kalshi, I can then just bet all my money on this and then make a shit ton of money off it. And it's encouraged by the people who created it, so we're just encouraging people to fuck people over. Such a very degenerate and just, I guess, late stage capitalism aspect of this world. But what the story I wanted to bring up is, so a U.S. Special Forces soldier allegedly won $400,000 on Maduro raid. It says, on April 13th, 2006, federal authorities arrested a U.S. Army Special Forces soldier for allegedly profiting from insider knowledge of the covert military operation that captured former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. It says he opened an account in late December 2025, staked approximately $32,000 on a long shot contract that Maduro would be out of office by the end of January. A bet that carried only a 6% probability at the time. So you open an account a month before. So bro probably went into some fucking meeting and they were like, hey, we're going to go yoink this dude from his home. And bro was like, I have a great idea. I'm going to open an account and I'm going to bet that he's not going to be in office anymore. And I'm going to make a shit ton of money and nobody's going to know about it. Because why would they? Oh, hey, somebody just so happened to, a month before this happened, bet a shit ton of money that this was going to happen and that this long shot thing would happen. And now he's making a bunch. You realize how stupid that is. Like, they got NBA players getting caught up because their unders are hitting. A lot more nuance to an NBA game. A lot more, I guess, randomness to an NBA. Or, like, maybe it could happen. Maybe it just so happens that Jonte Porter, hits all of his unders and just so happens to check out a minute into a game. Maybe that just happens. But you don't just accidentally abduct a leader of another country. So it seems like, bro, hold up, sorry, phone closed. It seems like the SEC or the FBI looked into this and saw that, like, okay, so bro opens a account a month before it happens, lobs a shit ton of money on this thing, and makes a fuck ton of money. Maybe we should look into it. And I feel like, hold on, what does this say? It says, this arrest marks a significant escalation in the government's crackdown on geopolitical insider trading. Now, wait a minute, bro. Hold on. Geopolitical insider trading. So you're telling me Nancy Pelosi, not even just, I know she's like the poster child for it, but all these congressmen and women who have been profiting off the stock market, off insider trading for years, get away with it. and are allowed to do it to create generational wealth for themselves and their family. But a soldier in the armed forces who's putting his life on the line for this country does it. And now all of a sudden it's a problem and he gets arrested for it. Now, when I came into this segment, I was kind of against this armed forces member. You know what? I was not on his side. He was a bit of my op coming into this. But now I'm on his side, bro. What do you mean? What do you mean he's not allowed to do it, but the congressmen and women have been doing it for years, and they aren't getting arrested? There's no repercussions for them. But bro tries to make a little bit of coin on a platform, mind you, that the creators of the platform said that it's okay for insider trading. It doesn't seem like they're the ones that are upset about it. It seems like the FBI is upset about it. But he gets punished for it. And I guess the question is, did he do anything wrong? Did he? Did he tell anyone that that we were going to go get Maduro? Clearly not, because we got him. So it's not like he went on Polymarket, made this futures bet, and, kind of signaled the alarm of like, oh, maybe he will be going. No. So he didn't blow the cover. He didn't ruin anything. All he did was take insider information and put money on it to financially benefit himself, which the congressmen and women of America have been doing for years. So why is he the one that has to fall for it? I feel like if you take him down, you need to be taking down all these other people who have been profiting off it for all these years. Why do you think being in Congress is such a lucrative position? Nobody wants to be a fucking politician. It seems like a shitty job to have, and I would hate to be a politician. You should lie 24/7. Your job is basically to lie and put on this performative act like you're some sort of good person, when we all know, it's all bullshit. But you get that insider trading money, you know what I'm saying? You get that Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren money, you know what I'm saying? So I just think that's kind of insane. So honestly, I think this is a little fucked up. I think this is a little fucking stupid that we got an American soldier, an American citizen, getting caught up in this, all because he was trying to make a little bit of coin. I still think Polymarket and Kalshi are just absolutely degenerate platforms, and that they just propagate this whatever's happening in America where everyone's just gambling all the time. Like, I feel like a lot of young men are just like, that's like their whole shtick is just gambling. And I mean, do what you gotta do, but like, I feel like it's one of those vices that we're just kind of normalizing, which that's like the other thing. It's just like, it seems like you're only allowed to engage in these vices in America if there's a way to profit off of them. It's like, oh, alcohol is like just this like really bad vice for a lot of people. A lot of people are, dying and addicted to alcohol, but hey, we making that money off of cigarettes, big tobacco, you know what I mean? Like, people are dying of lung cancer, but hey, gotta get that bag, you know what I mean? There's money in this shit, so allow it. Gambling, especially sports gambling, was illegal for so long, and now they've legalized it in so many states, and you see how detrimental it is for a lot of people. You see how a lot of people are crumbling financially because of these gambling institutions and the psychological effects of gambling. But we're just gonna allow it because there's money to be made, fellas. But if I want to go, maybe buy a little bit of weed from a dispensary, nope, federally illegal. Get fucked, nerd. But if you want to lose your life savings on DraftKings, here's a promo code for $200 in free bets. Oh, you want to destroy your liver? Hey, bro, how about this? Have some beer. I don't know. I was trying to think of a joke there, but I couldn't get one out. It's just a shitty fucking situation that we just allow these things to happen because people are making money off it. Stupid. Okay, we're going to transition here into my weekly observations. I have a few here. And the first one I kind of want to get into, I realized this week. So I'm still new to the podcast game, obviously, clearly. But something that I guess I've been struggling with was just this idea of social media, and we've spoke about it on the show here before, that just my experience with social media, and I like to talk about it on this podcast because it's just kind of where my life's at right now. I like to kind of speak on where I'm at, what's going on in my life, and frankly, part of my life is the, I guess, building phase of this podcast. And as I learn more and more about it, it's just very, very interesting how reliant podcasts are on social media. Because I was honestly trying to figure out a way to not use social media to promote my podcast, find other avenues to promote it so I didn't have to deal with the social media bullshit. Because, like, my goal here is to grow a show and grow an audience, not become a social media person, like an influencer or whatever. No disrespect to the influencers. But, like, that's just not necessarily what I want to do. But what I came to realize this week is that's kind of what you have to do. Because there's this guy that I follow on Instagram. He's like a Indiana podcast guy. His name's Nate Spangle. I'm sure if you live in Indianapolis or in Indiana, you've heard about him. I see his clips all the time, and his clips always have like pretty good views, pretty good likes, pretty good, like, a lot of engagement. So it's like you get this impression that his podcast must be popping because you see these clips get all these numbers. So I was just a little curious this week. I was like, man, let me see what's going on. Like, what kind of numbers is he pulling on YouTube? Not to like compare myself, but just kind of see kind of how he was doing because he's Indiana based. He has a show, and just see what the numbers were looking like there. Bro, he gets like 50 to like 60 plays on Spotify. Not Spotify, sorry, on YouTube. I was like, damn, that's way less than I would have thought bro was pulling like 10 to 15K. And it kind of made me realize, I was like, oh, so this entire game, this entire podcast game is clip based. Word. So I kind of have to lock into this social media game if I want to grow my show. The necessary evil of this whole thing is social media. Because the reality of it is not a lot of people are going to be listening to the full length show. That's just the reality of it. We don't live in a culture where people like to sit around and consume long form content. I mean, I get made fun of by my fiance because I like watching like 40-minute YouTube videos, bro. Like those video essay videos where they go in depth about something. I like watching, I don't know, movies, things like that. Things where I can, even on my phone when I'm watching like Instagram Reels, I watch like those 3-4 minute long Instagram Reels where some dude's just like in his car talking. That is one of the things that kind of inspired me to start a podcast because I really enjoy those more long form, more thought provoking clips where people can express themselves fully and kind of wrestle with an idea and kind of go, through the ins and outs of it all. But that's not necessarily what's popular today. What's popular today is the quick hits, the short form content, the quick dopamine rushes. And I can't sit here and act like I'm Mr. Innocent and I'm Mr. Not involved in all this. There's a handful of podcasts that I am aware of that I see their clips and I watch them. I'm like, man, like this is a cool little show. But I have like zero interest in checking out a full length episode of the show. So I'm not sitting here trying to act like, y'all are wrong for consuming the clips. But because I'm also a part of that, I just find it kind of interesting that there's probably a lot of podcasts out there who are just predominantly clip focused shows. Because you got to think, you put so much time and energy into putting together an hour for a show, and 50 people listen to it. But you take a 30-second clip of that show, like the best moment of the show, and you post it online, and 100,000 people see it. You gain 5,000 followers from it. But then no one, you know what I mean? No one's really tuning in to the full link, but the clips is what's important. And it sucks, man, because when I started this show, I believe I even said it in the first episode. I was like, I don't want to be one of those shows that just comes on here, tries to get a few clips to post on social media, dusts my hands, goes on about my day. I want to come in here and be able to put on a pretty good hour and be able to have these insightful topics that I talk about and have a little fun and be a little funny where people can come for an hour and they can hang out and we can all chill and be homies. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to probably play the clips game at least to some extent so that I can bring those people in who do want to sit through the full hour of the show and come engage and come and hang out with the kid. So my next topic, we're going to be ranking the top 5 series. No, I'm not going to do that. We ain't doing that shit. But I mean, shout out to those. Shout out to the people who do kind of do that whole, I guess, more clip focused thing. Y'all do you. Y'all have your fun with that. But that just ain't for me. I guess another thing that I weekly observed was, I don't even know if it's more of an observation, but man, it's hard to keep up with what's going on with this whole Iran conflict. And frankly, I don't want to keep up with it. Like I said, I have this news app on my phone that gives me notifications that kind of keep me in the loop to some extent of things that are happening in the world. So I'm not, like I said, I try to be disconnected as much as I can, but I want to still be informed enough to where I at least know what's going on. But it feels like every single week, there's just like, peace talks have stalled. Peace talks have reopened. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. The Strait of Hormuz is open. Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a ceasefire. Israel has now bombed Lebanon. Fucking, you know what I mean? It's like so much. It's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then it's like, oh, well, J.D. Vance went over there, but he couldn't strike a deal. Oh, they're going to have a talk in Pakistan again. But, oh, never mind. They said no. So it's like so much. You never really know what's going on. And then you can't get too consumed with it because then you get really scared and really doomery. Like, I watched one video on YouTube about the oil situation and how, like, what the effects of the Strait of Hormuz closing would be on the American people. And it just made me so anxious and so scared. And it's like, I don't need that. I don't need to be carrying that throughout my day. I don't need to carry this negativity, this anxiety with me on my day-to-day life. Because in reality, not to sound out of touch, not to sound like a fucking dumb American, but when I look around, it's not on my front doorstep. And I know, that's such an out of touch American thing to say. But there's beauty out there, and I want to focus on that and not on the negative aspect of it all. But one thing I will say, man, can I say something? Is this a safe space? I just feel like if you gave me, I don't know, send me to Pakistan. Send me to Pakistan. Give me Benjamin Netanyahu. Give me the Ayatollah, whoever the leaders are in Iran. Get me some translators. Fuck it. Bring Putin and Zelensky. I think it's his name. Bring everybody. All these conflicts. Let's all get in a room together. You give me like 3 beers and like 2.5 cigarettes. I feel like we could iron this shit out. Frankly. Is that a toxic trait? Is that toxic to think that, man, if you just put me in a room with these people, we all slam a few brews, we kind of have some small talk, and I'm just like, fellas, what are we doing here? Like, fellas, hey, come on, what are we doing here? I feel like we could all come to some sort of understanding. But no, they don't do that shit. They don't do that shit, bro. I know these talks. That's what's the problem is. That's the problem with American diplomacy. Is that we send these dudes over there who just like aren't cool, who can't hang, who can't chill, to talk to other dudes who can't hang, who can't chill, and then we expect them to somehow squash the beef? No. What we need to do is just send like the chillest guy we got. Send him to the Middle East. And then we need him to go find the chillest guy in the Iranian government. Let those boys chill on a balcony, smoke a joint, crack a few beers. Hey, share a Zin. Not share a Zin, but crack open the Zin pouch. And he's like, hey, you want one? Yeah, you guys crack a Zin together. I feel like those two could hash this shit out. They could come to some sort of understanding. But no, we send fucking JD Vance over there, which, I don't know, bro. I don't do what you got to do, Mr. JD Vance. But we send his ass over there. No disrespect to him, but he doesn't seem very chill. He doesn't seem like he can hang. He doesn't seem like he can like let loose and kick back. He seems like he's very uptight. And he was probably in that bitch like, like hands on the table, being like, "We are America, so these are the things that we." Well, trying to do this like a whole stone fucking cold fucking bullshit. It's not how you get to people, man. It's not how you break down those walls. It's not how you break down those barriers and get through the bullshit. But nah, we should keep sending him over there because that's our best guy. That's the best thing we could come up with was JD pooped his pants Vance. Didn't he like have sex with the couch? Was that a thing? Did I get propaganded or did that happen? Let's see. I don't want to spread fake news on this show. This is a very serious, very we bring you the truth of the story. We don't want to spread fake news. The hard-hitting stories, we give you all the facts. We give you everything you need to know. So I'm going to ask JD Vance. I'm just typing JD Vance couch. John Oliver. Hold on. Did JD Vance... A man on Twitter made a shit post that Vance's 2016 memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, contains a passage where Vance details masturbating into a couch using a latex glove shoved between the cushions. If that's the case, I feel like we kind of got to let that one slide. What you do when you're a young teen, especially when you're discovering your body, maybe we let that one slide. Now, if he's a grown adult and he's fucking a couch, yeah, bro, like, you're weird. But, so, you know what? We're going to move on from JD Vance fucking a couch, because that's not what this was supposed to be about. Next thing, I guess, I don't really have much on it, but I want to pour one out for the homies here. One of my favorite podcasts came to an end this week, and I've had some interesting feelings, some interesting thoughts about it. I'm not gonna lie, because it was one of the biggest inspirations in me starting this show. For context, the show, it was called The Coping Hour, and it was hosted by Motown Noah on YouTube. It was a basketball podcast. I watched him for like years and years and years ago. He started doing YouTube videos, and I really liked his commentary on hoops. So I really got into him. He kind of disappeared for a few years, and then he came back and started a podcast, and I really enjoyed it. Listened to it like for the past 2 years. He posts 2 episodes a week. I listened to damn near every episode. And I noticed he didn't post an episode on Monday. So I was kind of like, that's odd. So I went to his YouTube, and on his community posts, he said that he's taking basically an indefinite hiatus with the show, and that he didn't really love it anymore. Didn't know how. Wasn't really happy with the quality of the show. And then he also said that. What did he say? Hold on. He said, I also think the world needs a lot less guys with podcasts. I was like, well, shit. It was a bit of a kick in the nuts. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like this dude was my inspiration, to start a show. He was the reason that I was like, I could do this podcast thing because he is, he's just a normal guy. He's not like a Joe Rogan or a Theo Vaughn. He's just like a normal dude, and he just hops on the mic a couple times a week, talks about his life, talks about who. So I was like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it too. And then for your inspiration to come out and say, I just feel like the world needs less guys with podcasts. It's like, fuck, bro. I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel some type of way. It made me feel a little upset about it all. But then I had to lock in, had to have a mental conversation with myself because sometimes you get down and out, but you gotta lock in, talk to yourself, and I gotta remind myself this is all about growth. It's all about self growth, and I've noticed a lot of self growth within my life ever since I've started this show. So it's not about numbers. It's not about speaking out, making sure my opinion matters. It's about having fun, and it's about growing as a person and being better than what I used to be. So rest in peace, potentially, to the coping hour. You will be missed. But unfortunately, this guy will not be partaking in the lessening of podcasts in the world. All right, guys. I think since we started the show kind of introspective, we kind of came in a little introspective. I think I want to talk some hoops to end the show. NBA playoffs is still going on. There's some other things happening in the NBA world that I think we're just gonna touch on, and then we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna enjoy our Sunday. Got a hour and a half until Talladega starts, which I'm pumped, bro. I know I just said we're gonna talk NBA, but we might pivot to NASCAR a little bit here. I used to be so big into NASCAR when I was younger. Like, bro, I went as Dale Jr. for Halloween, I think 2 or 3 years in a row. Like, I did not play about NASCAR when I was a kid. That was my shit. I loved Hot Wheels. I loved NASCAR. I loved monster trucks. But when the older generation of Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, not Jimmy Johnson. I didn't like Jimmy Johnson. Like Mark Martin. Uh, I guess we could throw Truex Jr., Kurt, Kyle Busch, like the staples of my youth. Carl Edwards, the backflip guy. When they kind of started to phase out and fizzle out, or just kind of like, take a little bit of a nosedive, and this new generation kind of came in, I lost interest in NASCAR for years and years. I don't know why, or I don't really know what happened, but this year I've been back. They got me. I'm hooked again. I'm super tapped in to NASCAR this year. I even bought the new NASCAR game, been playing that, having a lot of fun with that. I've even been playing a lot of Rocket League lately. I don't know, bro. I forgot how fun Rocket League is. Holy shit, I love Rocket League. That game is so much fun, bro. I've been playing some competitive ones and some competitive twos, and I just like right now, bro. I could end this show right now and go play some Rocket League. I love that shit. I will say a little toxic. If you're running some duos on Rocket League, especially competitive duos, and you get matched up with an asshole, bro, they are some dicks. I was playing with this dude. He had his mic. He had a mic on. I wasn't. I don't fucking have my mic on when I play duos. He had his mic on, and he was talking through the game, and I whiffed a couple times. I missed the ball a few times. Not gonna hold you, and it kind of led to them scoring. Might have stolen some boosts. I wasn't playing my best game. And bro, he was fucking being a dick. He was saying that, what did he say? He said he hopes I get cancer. I was like, oh my God. And then he said like, he hopes my family dies. And I was like, this is insane. We're playing a little fucking video game here, and you're getting that fucking heated towards a stranger. Wild. But anyway, back to the main point here. But yeah, I've been really into NASCAR. Been having a good time. I don't know who my favorite driver is. I tentatively am rooting for any 2311 driver. You know, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, what's his name, Herbst. And I think they even got one more. Those last two guys, Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, are kind of, I guess, kind of the guys I pull for, just because I think it's pretty sick that Michael Jordan has a race team. But yeah, other than that, I don't really know. I thought I was gonna get into Carson Hocevar because he does the whole social media thing, but I don't know. He hasn't really had that good of a season, so I've kind of not really been too tapped in on whatever it is he's got going on. Same thing with Connor Zilic, a lot of hype coming in this season, so I thought I was gonna like align myself with him, but again, he kind of sucks. So it's like I want to be able to root for guys that are gonna kind of maybe win, especially if I'm a free agent, a fan free agent. I'm not gonna pick a guy that sucks just for the sake of picking a guy that sucks. I want to pick a guy that speaks to me, that calls to me. And I guess no one's really spoke to me or called to me yet, so I just kind of tentatively root for the 2311 guys. And Denny Hamlin, I guess. I root for those guys. That's about it. But anyway, sorry about that tangent into NASCAR. Let's talk some NBA hoops. So the NBA playoffs are, at least the first round, is in full swing, is in full effect. And I will be completely honest with you, it has been a very entertaining, very fun first round of the NBA playoffs. Usually, the first round's like a snooze fest because the one seeds typically sweep the eights. It's like, okay. The twos typically sweep the sevens. The threes and the six seeds, they might have the six seed might take a game or two. And then the four and five is usually the only good series. So in the first round, you really only have the 4 and 5 series to kind of like tune into because that's the only competitive basketball that's really being played. But this year, bro, I'm all over the place. I'm tapping into everything. You got the Magic and the Pistons. The Magic are up 2-1 on the Detroit Pistons, which I think I know we said it last episode when we spoke on the NBA playoffs. The Magic are good. They dealt with injuries all season, so them performing well in the playoffs is not necessarily a shock. I just think it's kind of crazy with how well the Pistons were playing this year that a team like the Magic can really give them a run for their money like that. Not even that, you got the Hawks-Knicks series, bro. This Hawks-Knicks series has been so entertaining. It has relit the fire in me for basketball because I have not watched any hoops at all this year. I've been super tapped out because, like I said, the Pacers suck. I have no reason to be watching hoops. I'm a fan of the game, but I don't care enough to watch really just like a Miami Heat New York Knicks basketball game or like a Spurs Timberwolves game. Like I might tune in and watch the end, but if it's close, but I'm not sitting down watching beginning to end. But this Hawks Knicks series, I'm like, when's the next game? Like when's the next game? What time is it? I'm gonna make sure I'm sat because I'm trying to watch as much of that as I can. What was that, game 3 when CJ McCollum hits that fucking game winner with 12 seconds left? They come down, they get that offensive stop. Absolute cinema. I jumped up off the couch. I haven't jumped up off the couch for a basketball game since last year's Indiana Pacers playoff run. I'm telling you, fucking, what was it, Nikhil Alexander-Walker or someone picked the pocket of whoever down low. They run off with the ball. I'm jumping up going, let's go, let's go. It's got me hooked, which, speaking on that series, CJ McCollum, who do you think you are, brother? Who does CJ McCollum actually think he is? Because he's 35 years old, and he is torching the New York Knicks. I don't think anyone thought when the Atlanta Hawks traded for CJ McCollum that he was actually going to be a player on that team that was going to be of any substance. I think, like everyone else in the NBA, kind of just thought that he was a salary dump. They dump Trae Young's contract. They bring in CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, expiring contracts. Basically, like, we're just trying to get off this Trae Young deal, and the only reason we bring in CJ McCollum is because he's making the money to make it work. Well, brother, it looks like CJ McCollum's the best player on the fucking Atlanta Hawks right now. It looks like CJ McCollum is the best player on the Atlanta Hawks. What, like, and I think that it is fair to say that we all kind of just forgot how good CJ McCollum is. They said something during, I believe it was game 2 or game 3, that he's averaged 20 points a game for, what was it, 10 seasons straight. And I think this year was the first, I think it was this year was the first year in the last 10 years that he hasn't averaged 20 plus points per game. He only averaged 18.7. So let's see. Where's his points per game? Let's pull this up. Yeah, bro, that's actually an insane stat. From 2015 to 2025, he averaged 20 points per game. Since the third season of his career, year 3, he jumped from 6.8 to 20.8. One most improved player. Shout out. And then for 10 straight years, averaged 20 plus points per game. Never been an all-star, by the way, which is kind of insane. Actually insane. But he's definitely one of those dudes that you just kind of forget about. And when he was paired up with Dame, that's really what it was. When he was paired up with Dame, obviously he had his counterpart. So he had that he was on a good team. So he was in the spotlight, he was getting media attention. But once Dame left, obviously the Blazers sucked. And then not only that, he gets shipped to Washington. Or no, wait, no, he went to the Pelicans. Hold on, bro. I'm learning a lot about CJ McCollum. He went to the Pelicans for 3 seasons. He only played 35 games for the Wizards. Okay. Okay. Yes, that's what it was. Sorry, guys. This is terrible podcasting. I forgot he played in New Orleans for 4 years. And then this offseason got shipped to Washington for Jordan Poole. Wild. Kind of crazy. But anyway, so he basically has played meaningless basketball for the last, 6 years of his career. So you kind of just forget that bro's a bucket. Gets shipped to Atlanta. No one's talking about him. No one's talking about, like, oh, wow, is CJ McCollum going to be... No one gave a shit. They're like, okay, he'll be gone this offseason. He can go sign somewhere else. Brother Bear. I wonder how Trae Young feels about this whole thing. That's what I wonder. Because, brother, they shipped you out for a 35-year-old salary dump, and he's out here taking your team potentially to the second round of the playoffs. Something you couldn't do since, what was it, 2021? Now you get to go play meaningless basketball in Washington for the next 5 years. Maybe Trae Young is going to have a CJ McCollum career arc. He's going to go to Washington. We're going to kind of forget about him for like 3 or 4 years. We're going to be like, oh, shit, yeah, Trae Young. Yeah, I remember him. And then he's going to get shipped to who knows where. Maybe a contender, maybe a good team. And then all of a sudden, he's going to be doing some CJ McCollum shit. And we're like, yo, where did Trae Young come from? It's like he's been here this whole time, brother. He's just been in Washington where careers go to die. So definitely going to keep a pin on that series. Definitely tapped in there. I hope and pray that the Hawks can take care of business and take care of this New York Knicks team, because boy do I hate New York. I don't hate them as players. I like Josh Hart. I like Mikal Bridges. I think Karl Anthony Towns, he's hilarious because he's just such a zesty guy. But I fuck with him. I think he's cool. So if these guys were anywhere else, I'd kind of root for them. But just because they're wearing New York uniforms, I'm like, yeah, fuck these guys. You guys suck. You know that. So I hope the Hawks can handle it. If not, though, so what would they get? They get Boston in the next round, bro. Boston. Okay, I think. But that's the thing. I don't know. I was gonna say Boston's gonna handle business, but they dropped a game to the 76ers without Joel Embiid. I'm not saying. I mean, I feel like every series, you drop at least one game, but game 2 at TD Garden, I don't know. Granted, I do think last year or 2 years, it was 2 years ago, they dropped, I believe it was game 2 to the Miami Heat when they were the 1 seed, and they ended up winning 4-1. So I think they're fine there. But all I'm saying is even if New York somehow squeaks past Atlanta, I think Boston's got that on lock. I think Boston's winning the East at this point. Because you're telling me the Orlando Magic, if they get past, what would it be, Detroit, they got Cleveland, who's whipping up on Toronto. So it's going to be Cleveland, Boston, Eastern Conference Finals is my prediction. Boston's going to the finals. I don't know what's happening in the West. The only thing that's happening in the West that I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, is the Thunder kicking the shit out of Phoenix, which we could dive into the whole referee James Williams, Devin Booker situation, but I think that's been covered enough on social media. That was a pretty big story, so I feel like everything that's been said on that, or that needs to be said on that, has been said. All I will say is, at what point are we going to start realizing that the Thunder, like, why are the Thunder getting special treatment? Why is that? It would make sense to me. I'm not saying it's good, but it would make sense to me if it was like the Lakers. If the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron were getting, like insane whistles, and there was like it wasn't really like reffed an even way to where it seems like certain things are getting called on the opposing team that aren't getting called on the Lakers, I would be like, that sucks for the sport, but it kind of makes sense because it's the Lakers. It's the biggest market. It's the biggest draw to your sport, on a worldwide scale. But like, it's Oklahoma City. No disrespect to small market teams. I rep a small market team. But I feel like a small market team getting crazy whistles doesn't quite make sense. I mean, does Adam Silver, is Shea just some sort of cash cow to Adam Silver? Are the Thunder like that popular? I feel like in the NBA universe, they're not very universally liked. They're not a big market. They're not a media darling team. I feel like a lot of people don't really fuck with him that heavy. There's other teams and other players out there that are a lot more like universally loved than Shea and his OKC Thunder cronies. So why give them this special treatment? Why allow Shea to commit basically an offensive foul every possession down the floor, but then penalize Devin Booker for just some absolute bullshit? I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand what you gain from that. I don't understand why they put them on this pedestal in a way that there's so much, I guess, discourse on how their games are reffed. So I guess keep an eye on that. Maybe at some point they'll do something about it. Maybe they'll start calling SGA out on his bullshit. But because they did it to James Harden and Trae Young. I don't remember what season it was exactly, but they were doing a lot of the it was one year where they kept doing the fucking like pump fake, get you in the air, jump into you, like completely unnatural, jump into you, drop and throw the ball up. And they kept getting foul calls. They kept getting to the free throw line, and people were ripping into them. So they changed the rules to make that, less common, because it was ruining the game of basketball. But now you have Shea continuously pushing off of people. Like, it's almost fucking every possession he's putting forearms into people and shoving them down. Or doing the pump fake, gets you in the air, jump into your arms, ripping through like that type of bullshit. And it's like, then you got like Lou Dort, who just be fouling the fuck out of people and no one calls it. So it's like, at what point are we going to stick a hand up and say something and put an end to this bullshit? I don't know, though. Maybe I'm just a bitter Indiana Pacers fan, but I think something is amiss here. But back to the Western Conference. What the fuck is going on over there? How in the hell are the Minnesota Timberwolves up 3-1 on the Denver Nuggets? At what point are the Denver Nuggets going to pay for firing Mike Malone? Not saying Mike Malone was a great coach. I'm not saying he was one of the best in the NBA. But he fucking won your team the NBA championship. He won the NBA Finals. And you fire him, what was it, last season, right before the playoffs? – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – –– – –– –– –– –– –– –– –– –– – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – – –– So I don't know what's going on in Denver. I thought OKC, San Antonio, Denver. That was like my three. Like that's probably who's coming out of the West. East, I was like, I don't fucking know. I have no idea who's coming out of the East. But West, I was like, it's gonna be one of those three teams. And now it's seeming like Denver's not even gonna make it out of the first round. And then it's like so the Timberwolves are up 3-1, but DiVincenzo just tore his Achilles, and Ant's out for multiple weeks. But then Ayo DeSumo comes off the bench and puts up 43. I don't know what is happening in that series. I unfortunately can't really watch any of the games because they are like the late games, the West Coast games, and I just don't really have the time to be staying. I got a job. You know what I mean? I can't be staying up till 1 in the morning watching Denver Nuggets versus Minnesota Timberwolves hoops. Respectfully. But on the topic of Achilles tears, another player wearing number 0 tears his Achilles in the NBA playoffs. What's going on there? What's going on there, guys? Last season, Tyrese Halliburton, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum all wear number 0, and they snap their Achilles. This season, Dante DiVincenzo wears number 0, snaps his Achilles. At what point do we start to think that number 0 is cursed? So, players. So I got a list. Oh no. I got a list pulled up here of players who wear number 0. Tyrese Maxey. Protect your calf, brother. Jalen Duren. Stretch properly. Christian Braun. I'm not going to be a dick and say that if you went down with an Achilles tear, it would not mean much to the Nuggets. So I'm not going to say that. I swear to God, if Tyrese Maxey tears his Achilles, something's up. Raise the alarm. Sound the conspiracy bells. And I guess the last series we could touch on here is this. We'll briefly touch on it. There's one more thing I want to talk about, and then we'll get out of here. The fucking Houston Rockets are down 3-0 to the LA Lakers, bro. Coming into that series, when I heard that Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic were out for the whole first round, or for most of the first round, I was like, okay, so the Rockets are just going to sweep them. And then it comes out that KD's out for game 1. I was like, oh, wow, game 1's going to be close. Lakers take it, whatever. KD shows up game 2. They still lose. Game 3, they have the lead. The Rockets, mind you. I think they were up, 18? They were up by quite a lot that game. And they were in the driver's seat to end the game, and then they just pissed it away. And you know whose fault it is? It's Alfred Şengün's. Not saying that he's like the worst player, but he's just the way he plays basketball, bro. When he's on defense, he looks like a lost puppy out there. He truly does. He looks like he looks so uncoordinated, and it's just wild. Like he's in that Jokic camp of like, how the hell are you so good at basketball? Because you do not look coordinated at all. You don't look like you really got much going for you in that regard. So, I mean, that series is over. The Lakers are going to advance. So, shout out LeBron, respectfully, because the Lakers might make a run. No, they probably won't because they'll have to face the Thunder next. But, I mean, who knows? They might do something there. But it'd be kind of crazy. It'd be kind of fun to see the Lakers Thunder in the second round, especially with a healthy Luka and a healthy Austin Reeves. That would be fun. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, and then we will wrap this show up and get out of here, which is some very recent news that is circulating the headlines in the NBA sphere, and that is, allegedly, Klay Thompson cheated on Megan Thee Stallion. So I haven't seen much on this because, like I said, I try to stay out of the gossipy media news cycle of things. So this one is kind of, on my feed at least, I haven't seen much on it. But Naomi's feed, it's all she's got going. And it seems the case that, allegedly, Klay Thompson cheated on Megan Thee Stallion. Hold on, I'm pulling up what she posted. So she posted on her Instagram story, for those of you who did not see it. This is what Megan Thee Stallion posted. She said, cheating. Had me around your whole family playing house. Got, in quotes, cold feet. Holding you down through all your, in all caps, horrible mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. Now you don't know if you can be, in quotes, monogamous? 4 question marks. Bitch, I need a real break after this one. Bye, y'all. So the alleged report is that Klay Thompson cheated on her with a WNBA player, which is wild. But then Klay Thompson comes out and he's saying that Megan Thee Stallion cheated on him with one of his teammates. Interesting. So we got a lot of he said, she said going on with this whole Megan Thee Stallion, Klay Thompson thing. And I guess it's like, who do you really believe? I'm not going to pick a side. But I don't know, because, man, those are some crazy allegations. Like, if Megan Thee Stallion really slept with one of Klay Thompson's teammates, who do we think it was? Who do we think would have the ability to pull something off like that? Now, my first thought, because you got to think, Megan Thee Stallion's a pretty high-profile lady. Obviously, she's a very famous rapper. She's not gonna, I mean, I don't know, maybe she would. She's not gonna sleep with some end-of-the-bench dude. She's not gonna sleep with Dwight Powell. Which, as I say that, I do remember that Kim Kardashian married Chris Humphries, who was kind of like an end-of-the-bench type guy. So maybe not. But I don't know. My mind initially goes to Kyrie Irving, but I know my boy Kyrie, I know he wouldn't do that. So let's look up the Dallas Mavericks roster real quick, and let's see who we think it might be. Definitely ain't Ryan Nembhard, respectfully. He's a little ugh. Respectfully, though. Not to be like fruity, but who's like a handsome guy that could pull someone? Actually, you know what? It might have been Dwight Powell. I'm not even going to hold you. I was just talking shit, being like, it could be. It's sure as shit not Chris Middleton. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, that was like really loud. I have my guess. If that report is true, I think I have my guess on who the culprit that slept with Megan Thee Stallion would be. My guess, Daniel Gafford. Lock it in. Final answer. Daniel Gafford is the suspect number 1 of who fornicated with Megan Thee Stallion while being Klay Thompson's teammate. Why do I think Daniel Gafford? Because he's like kind of lighter skin. Again, not to be weird, but he's a mildly attractive man. I feel like he could pull off something like that. I don't know. That's my guess. Lock it in. And then who would be the WNBA player that Klay Thompson would have cheated on Megan Thee Stallion with? I guess to keep it simple, let's pull up the Dallas Wings roster. Do you think it would be a Dallas Wings player, or is that too easy? Because that's the thing. When you say a WNBA player, when you say an NBA player cheated on Megan Thee Stallion with a WNBA player, the reality is your list is pretty slim of who it could be. Because a lot of these women are gay. The WNBA is a league where you have to come out as straight. Like, you're just assumed to be gay if you're in the W. So there's not a very large list of women that it could entail. And it seems like Klay Thompson doesn't like white women. So that eliminates the whole Indiana Fever roster. Just jokes. Can I be honest with you? If I had to make a pick, if I had to pick a player who I think Klay Thompson would have cheated on Megan Thee Stallion with, my pick would be Rickea Jackson. That's my pick. I know she doesn't play for the Wings, but I don't think it needs. No one. There was never like, oh, it was a Dallas base. So I think that's my pick. So if the rumors are true, and there was cheating scandals, Daniel Gafford or Kia Jackson. Those are my guesses. So that's all I got on that. That is to the end of today's show. I would like to thank you guys very, very much for listening. I'm glad you stuck around. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we can all come together every week and hang out for a little bit and yip yap about the happenings in the world. Maybe get a little deep, maybe get a little insightful, maybe get a little profound. So please, if you're watching on YouTube, do not forget to like the video, subscribe, drop a comment for the YouTube algorithm, and do not forget to go to the socials at Accidentally Profound on Instagram, at Accidentally Profound Pod on TikTok. Like the video, comment a little something, something, follow the show, interact with the show in any way you can. Any support is greatly appreciated. If you're on Spotify, rate 5 stars. Drop a comment on the Spotify video. Say what's good. I don't really know what's going on Apple Podcasts. I don't even know if you can rate over there. I don't even know if anyone listens to the show on there. But if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, what is good? Can you drop 5 stars? If you can, drop 5 stars. Can you comment over there? I don't know. If you can, drop a comment. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a great week. And I will see you guys next time. Hit the mic. Goodbye.